Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar titled Adaptive Insights Business Planning Cloud Customer Spotlight with Bucknell University and Workday. In this webinar, you'll gain insights from the experiences of your peers who are using adaptive insights from planning, budgeting, reporting, and analysis to achieve business agility. So today's webinar is part of our Looking Forward with Workday webinar series designed to give you insights into how your organization can do more with Workday, including additional ways we can support how you manage your people and your business. So before we get started, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen is a gray bar with multiple application widgets. You can use them throughout the webinar. All the widgets are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can submit them through the Q&A widget, and that's the speech bubble one with the question mark in the middle. We will try to answer these during the webcast, but if we run out of time or further discussion is needed, we'll follow up with you afterwards. And the recorded version of the webcast will be available approximately 24 hours after the webinar, and you can get to that using the same audience link that was sent to you earlier. And at the conclusion of the webinar, you'll also see a survey pop up, and we strongly encourage you to go ahead and submit, participate in the survey, because it'll help us understand what type of content we can deliver to you in future webinars. In today's presentation, we may make forward-looking statements, so please note that your decision to purchase Workday should be based on features and services that are available today. And with that, let's get started with today's session. I'm Grace Kim on the Adaptive Insights product marketing team here at Workday, and I'm delighted to have two customers of Adaptive Insights join us. First is Andrea Featherstone, who is the Director of Budgets and Financial Modeling at Bucknell University. And we also have Kui Dong, Senior Financial Analyst at Workday and a longtime user of Adaptive Insights. Antonia Vianel, our Principal Solution Consultant at Workday, will demo Adaptive Insights as part of our session today to help bring to light the features and benefits Andrea and Kui will be discussing. So I'll kick off today's session with a brief introduction of Adaptive Insights, followed by a panel discussion with Andrea and Kui, and then a demo by Tony. We'll also have time for Q&A at the end. Workday has over 4,000 customers using Adaptive Insights across all industries. What you see on this slide here is just a sample of some of the key industries we serve. And before turning to Adaptive Insights, these customers were struggling with budgeting, forecasting, and reporting using Excel and other planning legacy systems. And if you are in a similar situation today, you're not alone. The reality is that too many companies are stuck in what we call static planning, where planning is siloed between departments where you're not collaborating and you're working off of a different set of data. Limited in scope, where you can only model certain aspects of your business, but not holistically the entire business. And then it's episodic, meaning because the planning process is so painful, you only do it at best and annually because it is so manual and overburdensome. So what's required is a new model for business agility through an active planning process that is collaborative, comprehensive, and continuous. Planning is not just for finance because everybody plans. Every functional organization within your company plans, including sales, marketing, operations, HR, and so much more. And so with holistic company-wide planning, you can involve everybody that plans and get a comprehensive, interconnected model of your entire company. Workday can help you achieve an active planning process with Adaptive Insights Business Planning Cloud. From modeling your business, monitoring the performance, providing self-service and management reports, to in-depth analysis, Our Business Planning Cloud enables the entire planning process that allows your organization to be agile and responsive to the changing business needs. The Adaptive Insights Business Planning Cloud is part of the Workday suite of applications that helps you plan, execute, and analyze all in one system to achieve business agility. And so to help us better understand the active planning process, I'd like to invite Andrea and Kui to share their experiences. So let's first start with Andrea. So Andrea, thank you so much for joining us today. Could you kind of help us first learn more about Bucknell University?
Sure. Bucknell is a private liberal arts institution located in central Pennsylvania, about an hour north of Harrisburg. We have approximately 3,600 students. The majority of them are undergraduate. We have 1,400 FTEs on the employee side, and we are ranked 36th in the U.S. News and World Report's list of national liberal arts colleges.
Great, and tell us a little bit about your role at Bucknell University.
Sure, I am the Director of Budget and Financial Modeling at Bucknell. I maintain and consolidate the university's $300 million annual budget, as well as assist with other planning opportunities across the university.
Great, thank you. And I'd like to also introduce Kui. And Kui, I know people, audience here probably knows a lot about Workday already, but would love for you to share a little bit more about Workday's finance and FP&A organization.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Kui. I'm from the Workday FP&A team. And so in our FP&A organization at Workday, we have specific groups that are supporting the individual business. My area, my function, specifically is the professional services division at Workday. And so if, for any customers and our prospects that are coming in and that are implementing Adaptive, I help plan for that organization to make sure that there's enough resources to enable to staff those projects and deliver in a timely manner.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Kui, I know that you also speak with a lot of our prospects. They want to know about your experience working on Adaptive Insights. So really glad to have both Kui and Andrea join us today. So let's first talk about some of the challenges that you were facing in your organization and the drivers for change. And so let me start with you, Andrea. Could you just share what was going on at Bucknell that made you look at a new solution for your FP&A function?
Sure. Prior to implementing Adaptive Insights, we were using upwards of 200 spreadsheets to complete the budget process. Essentially, each of our budget managers had their own spreadsheets to complete on their cost center. It was both painful and time-consuming. We had to manually track all changes if they wanted to move budget dollars from one budget to another. We had issues with data integrity as well. The data was manually entered into our accounting systems from the 200 spreadsheets, so there were transposition errors, we just missed ledger accounts, all kinds of problems. And version control was another issue. A lot of times we found that end users would do a save as and save several different spreadsheets out there as they were working through their budgeting process, and it wasn't uncommon for them to submit the wrong version to finance.
That's very much in line with what we hear from a lot of our future customers as well. And so thank you for sharing your experience. Kui, what about you? I know Workday's adoption or implementation of Adaptive Insights really was due to the recent acquisition. But before that, Workday was using another planning solution. But what were some of the pain points that they really wanted to address when they were moving into Adaptive Insights?
Yeah, when we came on board with the Workday family, one of the things, as we were connecting with the corporate FP&A team at Workday, is that the current planning solution that they were using, one of the very basic limitations was just size, right? with FP&A organizations, we love to model different scenarios. We like to understand, the 10% growth, the 15, and or the aggressive, 20, 30% growth. And, that very basic functionality just wasn't available because there were limitations on how many versions that they can have. And so immediately with implementation of adaptive, that problem literally went away. And so that gave the corporate FP&A team just much more freedom and flexibility, not only to model the versions that the rest of us get to see, but maybe in FP&A and corporate, you can pocket other versions, test versions that you can have on the side. And so that was a huge win for the team, immediately just with the implementation of adaptive.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And it's interesting. I think it's great to have both Andrea and Kui join us and share their experience. So Andrea, you're coming off of 200, plus Excel tabs and kind of moving away from that. And then at Workday, prior to Adaptive Insights, we had a planning the solutions, but wasn't quite meeting up to the agility that we needed, this active planning process that we talked about. So really nice to have kind of the two different perspectives from our customers today. So both organizations decided to move forward with Adaptive Insights. And so in this session, I would love to kind of hear from both of you on what was the implementation process like, because I think both Bucknell University and Workday went through a very rapid implementation process. And so would love to kind of hear some of your experiences and maybe some best practices that you want to share with the audience. And Andrea, I'll start with you.
Sure. So we began in October for our go-live date of February 1st. So we had a really aggressive timeline because of the short time frame. We're kind of peeling back an onion, so to say, because we are doing a phased implementation. So we'll be adding to our process for next fiscal year. But for this fiscal year, we started strictly with operating budgets. And we tried to keep the look and feel of Adaptive very similar to what the end users were used to seeing in the spreadsheets that they had in the past. And then we also built out several different reports for our end users to access in that time frame as well. We had upwards of 150 users, so change management was a big part of our process. It was important to kind of not change things up too much the first go around. And then we also relied heavily on our consultants' knowledge of Adaptive to help us with the smooth process.
Thank you. And Andrea, you talked about kind of the training that you did for the users. So could you share a little bit about that experience and overall, what the adoption has been like from your user community?
Sure. So we engaged our consultants and our team, which is the team of two, and we did 2 solid days of back-to-back training where end users could come and attend the training sessions. We also realized that when we were holding trainings, it was between semesters, so a lot of faculty members were not present on campus and able to attend. So we taped one of the sessions so that we could have it out on our web so that they could access it when they came back to campus or even when they were away from campus. And we created a user guide and some practice things for them to do during the training and that they could take back for reference. And then when we went live in February, we made ourselves available with open meeting times where end users could just hop in and ask us any questions that they had the first week.
Great, thank you. I think the way Bucknell University, where you led not only from the technology side, but really focusing on the change management, I think definitely paid off in terms of the benefits that you were able to achieve. Kui, could you share a little bit about Workday's journey in the implementation process?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Grace. So the implementation of Adaptive at Workday was also a very aggressive time frame. I venture to say that we had maybe about 10 weeks from start to finish, and for a large enterprise deployment that is extremely aggressive. But we took on the challenge head on. And I'm proud to say that we did, and we're able to meet our implementation timeline under 10 weeks. We were able to get the team rolling on the forecast pretty much immediately as soon as basically the expense module was built. We had a small deployment team. So we also, when we deployed Workday, was also quite lean, a little lean and lean as well. And having been involved in that implementation process, I can surely tell you that if it's possible with Workday and with Bucknell, any of our customers, I would say, we would also experience that success as well. To kind of ensure that we have success built into the implementation, we also make sure that our users and our team leaders were very involved in this process so that they're stakeholders and they understand the value of adaptive. For user adoption, very much like Bucknell, we had specific trainings that we did along the way so that it's not so, it's not too much for one day, for example. I mean, I think you and I can agree that our brains kind of get a little slow after the fourth hour of training. And so we sprinkled in training, shorter period sprints. We specify and tailor each training. For example, myself and another colleague led a 2.5, 3-hour training on just Office Connect alone. Because we really understood that now that we have a planning system, how are we able to take the data out and report it so that the end users get that value and start to see that value pretty much immediately. And that's how we were able to drive adoption as well.
And just quickly for the audience, Office Connect is part of our Adaptive Insights Business Planning Cloud capability, which you'll be seeing Tony's demo.
You bet. I don't mean to steal Tony's thunder, but it's one of those tools that at Workday, the FP&A team, we love it. And any customers that I talk to, as we go through the demo, it's just one of those eye-opening moments with the spark in their eye. They're like, oh, we can definitely do this, and they're already thinking about how their process can be much more automated and/or improve efficiency by the use of this product. So I'm happy to have Tony demo that for us later today.
Awesome. So I want to thank everyone for submitting your questions. As I am moderating the panel, I am looking at the Q&A, and it seems like this topic of implementation of interest. So, Kui, go ahead. Could you talk about, there's a question about, you mentioned that you had a small implementation team. Share with the audience, how small is small, and a little bit more about that experience.
Sure. I get a lot of people that air quotes the small.
Yeah, that's very true. The small was in quotes, by the way, in the Q&A that came in. Yes.
You bet. And you know what? I can tell you that we had 2 consultants that was with us for the implementation from the adaptive implementation team, but they weren't fully dedicated to us. They also had to manage other projects they were deploying and other customers as well. And so that was, so those were the 2. But then myself and another FP&A person, we were also kind of anointed PS consultants as well, so we moonlighted for a little bit there. So I would have to say, the core team, full body together, I would say maybe 2-ish. But what made this implementation really successful was just having the stakeholders in the room to really understand, how are we setting up our level structure? Mm-hmm. Talk about the currencies across our book of business, and to really kind of have those other people, those other important stakeholders on the side to kind of gather and agree on, again, like the level structure was also very helpful. But, no kidding, we ran pretty small and lean too. And it was 10 weeks It wasn't easy, but it was so extremely rewarding. And to be able to talk to customers and kind of coach them through, hey, here are the things that you should be doing behind the scenes in order to either speed up and or have those implementations hit those milestones as needed, has been really, really tremendous for a lot of customers to hear as well. Because we've gone through it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're also a customer, right?
Yeah. Great. So not every customer gets to have someone like Kui as part of the FP&A team who's very experienced with adaptive insights. So Andrea, could you share your implementation team? And I know you work both the internal team as well as the consultants that you mentioned.
Yeah, so our internal team consists of myself and one other person, and then we had two consultants engaged, one who was heavy on the Workday knowledge and one who was heavy on the adaptive knowledge, and it worked out really well, and it was not a full-time implementation at all. I mean, we had plenty of other things to do in our day jobs, per se, as we were implementing adaptive, so I mean, for us, it felt like the right number.
Great. Thank you. So I'd like to move on and talk about some of the results that you've seen. And first, I want to congratulate Andrea, your team with Bucknell University, for being the 2019 Torch Award winner for collaborative planning. And the Torch Awards are given to our customers who have achieved excellence in business planning. And we announced this at our annual user conference, Adaptive Live, which was just held last month. And so Andrea and Bucknell University was recognized for your accomplishments. And so would love for you to share a little bit more about some of the value that you realize that you'd like to share with the audience today.
Sure. I think I touched on a lot of them before, but just to reiterate, it really automated the process. It made it a lot more user-friendly. We were able to save a lot of time with building the budget. Upper-level management, this is a real win for us, was able to look at their budget across their organization and look at strategic decisions, strategic changes. They could easily look at the high-level things. It was easier for them to review budgets in different areas and ask hard questions like, what can we stop doing today in order to fund new initiatives? Because in higher ed, that's just the way things are going. There's no new revenue coming in, so we have to ask tough decisions about what can we stop doing in order to do these new priorities that we need to plan for. And we didn't have any issues with data integrity going forward because everything just rolled up to the university budget. There was no more data entry. It helped support our mission. It helped free up our time to analyze data rather than input data.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that is very consistent with what we heard from other customers as well, where the finance team is able to become more strategic partner to the business and really help to achieve the mission of the organization, as you stated, Andrea. Andrea, this is a question I'd love to ask our customers on a regular basis. So aside from the business benefits that you achieve, could you share any personal benefits that you've gotten as having adaptive insights now a part of your solution?
I would just say more time to focus on the exciting strategic level thinking that we didn't have time to focus on before. I'll admit I was entering budgets into our old system in March of last year. And this year we had the budget built. We were still vetting some things that might not have been balanced at the time, but it was much easier to make decisions and changes. We were ready for the board meeting like 2 weeks before the board meeting, which is usually not, that's never happened before. We're usually scrambling. So the budget was built and ready, so there was a lot more time to focus on other things.
Awesome. Awesome. And so, Clea, let me come back to you. And could you share some of the benefits that you just want to highlight? I know you already mentioned a lot of the benefits, but are there any that you want to highlight as Workday is on adaptive insights?
Yeah, one of the other slides had mentioned that our job is to provide management with the insights and recommendation that they need to drive the business forward. And, to be perfectly honest, we wouldn't be able to do that without a system like Adaptive. And for us at Workday, we have a very robust forecasting cadence. And so the ability to just compare plans to forecast, one, enable us to be agile, and then two, to be proactive to the changes has been a tremendous win for the team.
Awesome. And so same question to you, any personal benefits that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I feel like at heart, everybody in the FP&A team, we want to do the analyst side of things, right? And so I feel as though, and I hear this from a lot of customers as well, the transformation between doing a lot of the laborious data crunching, maybe before that took up the majority of our time. We're talking about maybe 60, 70% of the time, and then we have this small window to do what we really love, which is the analysis, to provide the insights and the recommendation. I feel that that's flipped, and so I get to do what I truly love, is to be able to be a business partner and to guide executives to make decisions in a timely manner. And then I get pretty giddy when I talk about those kinds of things. It's the little FP&A nerd in me.
Awesome. Thank you. So you both, mentioned how this was a phased implementation, and it was in a very short timeline. You got it going. But obviously, your business, your organization is constantly changing and evolving. What's next in terms of your journey with Adaptive Insights? And I'll go ahead and start with Clea.
Yeah, sure. We've got a whole long list of what we need to do for the next phase in our adaptive journey. The first phase, we were able to do basically revenue planning, expense planning, capital planning. The second phase now, we're talking about full suite of integrated model, which means a fully integrated three-system models from not only it's got income statement, but now balance sheet and cash, and being able to integrate that back to Workday financials so that we can communicate data back and forth. So I'm excited to progress in that journey and to progress on with the power of one within Workday. So that's just a tiny snippet of our action plan for this quarter and then for the rest of the year.
Awesome, thank you. And Andrea, what about you? What are your future plans with Adaptive Insights?
So we are working on implementing all funds budgeting at Bucknell. So it'll be budgeting for non-capital projects, budgeting for donor restricted gifts, and then also moving our capital budgeting process into Adaptive.
Great, thank you. I will continue to monitor the Q&A here. I know there's some questions I have not yet answered or asked our panelists. But at this time, I think it would be really helpful for you to actually see the product, to see some of the features and capabilities that Andrea and Clea mentioned. So I'd like to turn it over to Tony, who will give you a quick demonstration of, again, some of the key features that were mentioned by Andrea and Clea.
Thank you, Grace. Can everybody see my screen? You should see the Workday home screen right now.
Yes, I'm seeing it.
Good morning, everybody. And again, my name is Tony VML, and I'm going to be demonstrating the product today. So right now, I've already logged into Workday. And for those that are current Workday customers, you have the ability to access our business planning cloud solution directly out of the Workday home screen. As you see in the home screen, based on the fact that I have access, you'll see an Adaptive Insights worklet tile. And just by simply just clicking on it, it'll allow you to get an access to the adaptive solution. And just by clicking on this secondary button, it'll automatically bring me into the Business Planning Cloud Adaptive Insights home screen. Now, when we created Adaptive Insights, we had three tenets in mind from an active planning perspective. And those tenets was that the solution had to be easy, had to be powerful and scalable, and it had to be fast. Easy so that all business users, not just finance, would be able to leverage the system. Had to be powerful and scalable so that you can model and analyze all your aspects of your business, and no matter how data intensive or how complex is your model. And it had to be fast to be able to support your rapid modeling analysis. So from a powerful and scalable and from a fast perspective, let me give you the description or give you some insight into our discovery dashboards. Here you're looking at a corporate company summary dashboard that actually has a number of different tabs. And for those users out there that revenue is important to them, or EBITDA, this is a perfect dashboard for them. Here I have tile metrics for product revenue as well as EBITDA. I have different types of chart objects from pie charts, gauges, bar charts. Bar chart here showing me the trend analysis for my net product revenue for the upcoming year. I also have, this is from an actuals perspective as well as a budget perspective. And then I can also have more detailed information from a budget perspective. And here is a good example of a waterfall chart that just comes right out of the box with our adaptive solution. And we can also marry other data from other systems, from your CRM system, from your order system, your sales, as well as your production system. Now, if I navigate back, what's very important to note from a dashboard perspective, these are all interactive. So as a user, if I want to get more detail, say for instance for my net product revenue, I can just click on the tile metric and I have the capability of drilling down into different perspectives. From a Workday perspective, different work tags or different dimensions. Maybe I want to look at my net product revenue by product to understand what are the main products that we're forecasting for, planning for, or what are, from an actuals perspective, what are the biggest products or the most lucrative products that we offer. Or I can go back and instead of looking at product, so the capability not only to be able to look at your data visually, but also be able to interact with it. Is right in line with that comprehensive solution and continuous solution that Grace was talking about. Now let's actually let's bounce into some planning. So let's take in the scenario that right now we've already completed our budget process, and the VP of Sales has come back to me and say, hey, they want to make some changes to our plan and potentially move up the hiring of an account executive 1 quarter early. So I'm going to navigate to my navigation menu, and as a user, I have access to what we call process lists. So these are like task lists that help me or help a user navigate themselves through a specific process, like a budget process, forecast process, or maybe it's just an administrative process. I'm going to go to my North Sales Plan process list. As I navigate to that, you're going to see on the left, these are all the tasks that have been assigned to me for this specific task list. Here, one of them is the adjustment of my workforce plan, inputting of my travel plans, all the way up to just reviewing the financial statements to ensure that they're correct before I submit my plan for approval. Now, as a user, I'm going to go in. I'm going to make some changes to my plan. Now, we talked to the VP. The VP wanted to make a change, wanted to make this new hire actually start 1 quarter earlier. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to notice that we support calendar dates. And I'm going to say that individual is going to be starting in January 14th, not exactly the beginning of the year. And we'll also go in and, from a collaboration perspective, let's type in some notes. Start 1 quarter earlier. and I'm going to submit that. Now, from a powerful as well as a fast perspective, all I need to do is just make those changes and save those changes. At that point, it'll automatically aggregate any calculations that are pertinent to my budget and forecast will automatically calculate. There's nothing I need to do. There's no batch process I need to run. This is all done in real time. Now, from a collaboration perspective, maybe I want to go in and type in some notes here saying, hey, made some changes based on feedback from VP. All right, and we'll go in and make sure that I spell that correctly, and we're going to add that note. So from a collaboration perspective, I'm able to go in, not only write notes or comments to my actual line item in my plan, I can also submit notes in my process list. All right, so they'll be married together for a complete forecast. Now let's actually take a look at the impact of these changes. So I've already opened up a report here, and this report has a lot of data on this that appears here. Let me actually go in and explain it here. I'm looking at a summary of some financial statements, income statement, balance sheet, as well as balance sheet. I've got my actual data for prior year, so I have the capability of marrying my actuals with my budget or forecast. I have my first pass of my budget or my baseline budget, and then I've got my current working budget. And then before I made any changes, they were at basically there was a zero variance. So let me refresh this report, and you'll see that based on those changes, now I have impacts at impact variance based from my budget first pass to my working budget. Here I can see that hiring that account executive whose primary responsibility is to garner revenue for my company, I can see a goods sold as well. Now, from an expense perspective, obviously we should see an impact from a salaries and wages perspective. Here I can see the salaries and wages and the corresponding taxes and benefits. I can see an impact to that as well. But I also see an impact to my office expenses. Why is that? Well, I see an expense to my telephone expense, which should be obvious. If I'm hiring a sales account executive, that person would better be on the phone trying to garner some revenue for my company. So I've gone in and I've made a change to my workforce plan, and in real time I can see the impact to my financial statements from an income statement perspective as well as a balance sheet perspective. Now I want to be able to go in and I want to add a note here saying what the reason for that net income impact is or variance. So I can just click in the report, add a line note. Is due to new hire AE in Q1. And I can just click OK. All these notes are available, obviously, from a report perspective. I can report on any of those notes that I wrote in my plan. So every note from a collaboration perspective is viewable by any user who has access to see those the data for those specific organizations. And not only do I have the capability of doing that, but this request was from the VP of Sales. So obviously what I want to do is I want to go in and send this report to the VP so they can see what the impact is for themselves. So I can just click OK. I can type in my note, positive impact, let's hire. And I can send that. So from a collaboration perspective, you have the capability not only to be able to go and input your budgets and forecasts, but it's no longer in a vacuum. You now have the capability of collaborating with your fellow employees. You can have threaded conversations, and all that information is stored with your budget or your forecast. Now, I've gone in and I've shown you, from a visual perspective, I've shown you some dashboards. I've shown you to be able to input your compensation plan. Now, maybe from an operating expense perspective, you want to be able to also input your some just typical operating expenses. Here, I can, if I want to go in and input some training expense, I can just enter it into the year, and it tells me, hey, how do you want to distribute that data across the months? I can break that back proportionally. I can break it back evenly. I can leverage different assumptions, 445, 454, or some basic assumptions that we've already incorporated into our solution. Let's just break it back proportionally. I can apply that, or I can also input data in the individual month. You have the flexibility to be able to input any way you like, and that's the benefit and the power of Adaptive Insights. And every time I make a change, we track that just by going in and just clicking on the cell, exploring that cell value. I can click on the audit trail here, and I can see all the changes that have been made by any user who actually has access to that organization or that cost center. Now, one thing that before I move forward, I forgot to ask. I was hoping to get some insight from Andrea. You know, from those process lists that I access, do you leverage process lists at Bucknell?
We leverage workflow, but workflow and process lists, all of that has worked really well for us because the way we leverage it is each cost center budget manager can fill out their budget report. We then have it set up to flow to the operations managers of the colleges so that they can review the 50 budgets that are underneath them. And then from then, they can go up to the deans for approval before they come back to finance. So that was a big missing piece before we went to Adaptive Insights because we didn't have any of that approval process history. And now we can force approvals so that they need to look and at least review the budgets in their area before they come back to the finance office.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you. So let me move forward. So I've gone in and I've input my expenses. I've given you a flavor of inputting some operating expenses. But we made some changes to our salaries and wages. And you can see here I've got a salaries and wages line. Well, I can just click here as well. I can explore the cell, and just by clicking on that value, I have visibility to that information right within my expense input template. So again, visibility, tracking, collaboration, all key in an Adaptive Insight solution. Now, we talked about flexibility. Well, it wouldn't be flexible if we weren't able to not only input data in the web, but also input data in Excel as well. So leveraging Office Connect solution, here I'm looking at this very same input template that you saw on the web, and I can just go in and let me just refresh this. Let's see. You can log in, log me out again, hold on. There we go. All right, so here I've logged in, and then we had training, and you'll see that if I navigate, let me refresh the screen. All right. So if I look at my training, you'll see that my training line. You see that same $18,980 I made changes to, and from right within here, I can make a change. I have all the capabilities right within the solution to be able to go in and submit my data and so on. Now, one thing is from an input perspective, but from a reporting perspective, I know that Andrea was very high on Office Connect. So if I were to go in and just open up a typical board book, here I've got a board book that shows functional P&L. I've got some metrics, some charts, and so on. This is connected directly to my adaptive planning solution. Here, all I need to do is refresh the sheet, and it's pulling data directly from my my budget, my plan, my Adaptive Insights Business Planning Cloud application. Here you'll see that I actually have some rows that weren't updated. Actually, let me go in and update those here. Let me refresh that, and you'll see I'm getting data directly from here. And then from a time perspective, I'm looking at March. Let's actually go in and change that to April, all right? Because we just had our April data come in. Let me click OK, and I'm going to refresh that. So from an Office Connect perspective, I can understand why Andrea is so high on Office Connect, because now this very same report, I'm able to go in and not only create a report just for one cost center, but this one report could replace hundreds of spreadsheets that are out being submitted or emailed out throughout your company. Andrea, can you actually give me some insight? What kind of reports do you actually leverage Office Connect for?
I believe that was Quay and Workday who was leveraging Office Connect. We are currently using Office Connect in a limited scope right now.
Yeah. Correct. So, Tony, happy to field that question for you. Office Connect is a huge win for us here at Workday. If you talk to any one of us, every single FP&A team members has Office Connect, and they're able to do reporting and pull data out pretty much at the click of a button. And so what happens is that your reporting becomes more automated and it becomes more real time. As soon as data is available inside Adaptive, what I've seen a lot of the team members have done is that they've set up their own templates to fit their business needs. And once that data is ready inside Adaptive, all they have to do is hit that refresh, very much like what Tony just did. And then they've got the latest forecast to plan variance already so that they can go in there and take a look and dig into, hey, why is my compensation higher than planned? And so get right into the data itself. I think the other win for us is also reporting in regards to PowerPoint presentations. A lot of team members also have their charts and graphs built in, and so as soon as that's ready, we're able to kind of refresh the data, and now your PowerPoint's also ready. One quick story about that is that at Adaptive, very similar to how Andrea was able to submit probably to the board report, was that everything is on a cadence where as soon as the data was ready, our board templates and our board slides are also ready. And then we're able to supply the board with a pre-read for an entire agenda 24, 40 hours in advance, which is, I would say, every FP&A team's dream, right? That's our ambition. So back to Tony, that's a little bit about how at Adaptive and at Workday, how we are leveraging Office Connect to basically improve just the way that we function as a team.
Hey, thanks, Brian. I apologize for confusing you with Andrea. And from a demonstration perspective, that's pretty much what I've got for today. It was a quick overview of Adaptive, but it was a comprehensive overview of Adaptive. So I'd like to turn it over to Grace to finish it off.
Great. Thank you, Tony, for a great demonstration. So as Tony mentioned, Tony just highlighted some of the key capabilities of Adaptive Insights. There's a lot more that we would love to show you. So if you like an in-depth demonstration and further discussion, please let us know, and we would love to be able to do a custom demo for your company and also discuss options and phases. So we have a lot of questions coming in, and so let me go ahead and field some of them. And again, just a reminder, if we don't get to your questions, we'll definitely follow up with you after the webinar. So let me see here. Andrea, I'm going to put you on the spot. There's a question here that I think is a very good question, so would love your viewpoint. So now that you are live with Adaptive Insights, how comfortable are you making changes to the budget model yourself, or do you feel like you still need to depend on the consultant today?
Now, as far as the operating budget goes, we are able to make it. They do a really good job with providing us with training and training modules that we can walk through and practice to update different things within Adaptive. Sometimes we still go back to our consultants for a reporting question, or for instance, we're just getting ready to build our position budgets in Adaptive, and they are helping us get everything in line to do that. A lot of that is getting the data out of Workday and into Adaptive, so we can make the changes once we're in Adaptive. But we're still going back to our consultants from time to time, but less and less as we get more familiar and into the tool.
Great, thank you. And Tony, there are a couple of questions around the integration. So, question is, does Adaptive Insights work with non-Workday data, and how frequently can you update transactional data into Adaptive Insights? Just kind of to discuss how customers typically do it and what options we provide.
That's a good question. Yes, we do interact with non-Workday data. Actually, we can interact with really any third-party system that has that we can connect to. Things like ERP, CRM, any operational system, even Excel. Right? From an update perspective, we can update as frequently as you want. So, typical in many clients is maybe once a day, or based on the type of data that they're loading, or it could be once a month for GL transactions, as well as maybe some HR updates and so on.
Great, and I'm conscious of the time. There's a few questions around phases of implementation and where you should start. And so both in the case of Bucknell University and Workday, we started on the finance side first, but we also have customers starting on the workforce planning as well. So it really depends on your use case and the priorities and kind of where you want to tackle first. And then some other questions around, do you need to first implement Workday HCM or Workday Financial Management before implementing Adaptive Insights? And the answer is no. I mean, we have customers deciding to go first with Adaptive Insights because of, you've seen both from Bucknell University and Workday how you can really scope it to go live in a very, very short time frame. So if you have a need today to really modernize your FP&A capabilities with Adaptive Insights, you can certainly implement Adaptive Insights first before Workday Financial Management or HCM. So it really depends on your use case, where you are in your journey, and some of your priorities. And this is where we'd love to discuss with you further on what options and what might be the best for your organization. Let's see. Let's handle one more question. Tony, maybe I'll go ahead and send this to you. So you've seen the power of Adaptive Insights and the reporting that we provide for our, the FP&A function. Tony, do you want to kind of mention how customers will be using Adaptive Insights reporting with other types of reporting from Workday applications?
Are you talking about like Prism?
You should ask, there's a couple of questions on Prism as well, but also composite reporting.
Oh, composite reporting and so on. So from a reporting perspective, let me actually answer that twofold. So from a composite reporting perspective, the data that from a budgeting and forecasting perspective or planning perspective resides in Adaptive, but is integrated with Workday. So that data can be pushed back to Workday, and then you can leverage the composite reporting within Workday to report off the budget or forecast data married with your actual data. You know, from a Prism perspective, and I apologize, a lot of people ask me what if the Adaptive Insight Discovery dashboards are if it's Prism or what's the difference between that and Prism. So I might as well answer that now since I brought it up. Is from Adaptive Insights and Prism perspective, they're complementary. So for those that aren't aware, Adaptive Discovery dashboards allow you to visually model, analyze data with data that's loaded directly into Adaptive. So that would be the actual data that's driving helping to drive the budget and the forecast. Usually the data that's in Adaptive is usually summarized, whereas Prism is connecting directly to Workday or any third-party system, or can also serve as data from Adaptive. But Prism is actually connected to all that transactional detail that you get in those systems, and it's different from Discovery dashboards because they actually have that detail available to them, where the Discovery dashboards only have the data available at a summarized perspective only inside the Adaptive data store. So hopefully that answers that question, which was not asked for, but that gives you some insight on that.
Thank you, Tony. And I know that there are questions that we weren't able to get to. So as a reminder, we will follow up with you afterwards. I'm conscious of the time and respectful of your time. So I will go ahead and wrap it up here. So I want to just really thank you for joining us. There's been a great questions coming in through the Q&A panel, so thank you for engaging with us. So we hope you found today's session helpful. We regularly host webinars covering financial management, planning, and Prism Analytics, and you see some of the future ones coming up in July. So we hope to see you in future webinars. And again, as you exit, please make sure to participate in the survey, give us the feedback, because we want to make sure as we deliver these sessions to you that they're as helpful and valuable to you in the future. So thank you again for joining us today. Have a great day.